Good morning. Suppose you are considering two job offers. The first offer is from a company in New York City for $100,000 per year. The second job offer is from a company in Kansas City for $70,000 per year. Which job offer is better? Obviously, the job in New York City pays more, but everybody knows that the cost of living in New York City is very high, and the cost of living in Kansas City is much less than in New York. So you go to the internet and you find a lot of articles like this one from the New York Times. 100,000 is the bare minimum survival income. The New York job pays a lot more, but people in Kansas City spend a lot less. This is what purchasing power parity means. Usually when we think about GDP, gross domestic product, we think that New York is better because it pays more. GDP is just adding up how many dollars were spent across the entire economy. And on that measure, the United States has the biggest GDP in the world, and China is number 2. But the CIA and the International Monetary Fund and other economists measure by purchasing power parity. Consider the incomes people earn and how much it costs them to buy the things that they buy. And here's what the chart looks like. China is now in the top spot with the United States at number 2 because everything just costs a lot less here in China. Most mainstream economists and governments are saying that the Chinese need to spend more on consumer spending. The Chinese have the highest savings rate in the whole world, and if we could only get the Chinese to spend more instead of saving it, that would boost their economy, and the Chinese industrial sector would not have to export so much. That's the thinking. China is exporting too much because their own consumers aren't buying enough stuff here from Chinese factories. But this way of thinking, that perspective, has a big problem, which is that the Chinese people are buying a lot of things. They just don't cost nearly as much. When I visit Chinese families in their homes are full of new furniture. Their kitchen has the newest appliances. They have every electronic device you can imagine. They have a new car in the garage. They go on 2 or more vacations a year. They stay in nice hotels and they eat in restaurants all the time. But the car that's sitting in their garage costs maybe $10,000. It's 5 times that in the United States. An overnight stay in a 4-star hotel here in China is $30 a night instead of $300. A university education is $3,000 a year instead of $60,000. A big restaurant meal for the whole family is about $30, $40. Prescription drugs cost 50 times more in the United States compared to here. Transportation is a fifth the cost. A doctor's visit is $10. Traveling by high-speed rail or plane compared to the US travel is maybe 20% the cost. And deflation in China is real. The prices are falling. Almost everything, economy-wide, costs less today than just 5 years ago. Consider and compare 2 identical products. One is sold in a store here in China, and the other one is sold in the United States. In the Chinese store, it's made here, taken to the store and sold here. For the US store, it's made here, taken to a port. The US buyer pays the tariff, 25% or more. It goes on a ship and sails halfway across the world. It's unloaded by unionized dock workers instead of by a big robot, and put on a truck, driven to a warehouse where it's unloaded again, put onto another truck, and then taken to a store. The store manager has high rent, high wages and salaries expense. He pays health insurance for everyone, high taxes, and he still has to make a profit also. So it's at least 6 times in the United States store compared to the Chinese one. But it's the same exact product. And that is what purchasing power parity is. And that's the flaw in their thinking here. The Chinese are spending a lot of money. Their middle class and upper class live very comfortable lives. And they couldn't spend more if they wanted to. But it's not because they don't have the money. They're already buying everything they need and most of what they want. New York City versus Kansas City. Of course, you're going to take the Kansas City job. And if your friends from New York laugh at you because you're making less money, ask them how much they're paying on rent and on car insurance, and show them their own newspaper that says $100,000 is the new minimum wage in New York City. And then realize that Kansas City is wildly expensive compared to the rest of the world, and that as long as Americans continue to pay 8 times for Chinese exports, the Chinese will continue to export. Thanks. Be good.
Love the Lord your God with all your heart, and all your soul, and all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. Pray for those who hurt you. Love your enemy.